Okay, the construction is complete now, and you can see in here I'm using a couple of those ESCs, and under that clump of sellotape is an Omnibus F4 that I took off my Tech Sumo, and surprisingly very few changes needed to be made after taking that off. It was half set up for a plane already. Well, it was fully set up for a plane, which means it was half set up for a tailsitter as it was, so that was kind of nice. And I'm using a FlySky FSIA 6B as usual, and that's all stuck on with sellotape. There's a lot of sellotape on here. Battery is also held on with sellotape. I'm just sort of sticking a new piece of sellotape on when I need to. And down here I eventually did glue this third piece of plywood on there, so I couldn't think of a better way to do it. And also some more sellotape wrapped around those servos just to hold them in.
Now, as far as this setup in Ardupilot goes, I'm not going to cover this too deeply because I don't know a whole lot about it at this point, so I'll just briefly show you where to find this info. There are three main pieces of info that you'll need to look at. One is the quad plane support page, and the reason you need to look at this first is because if you go to the tailsitter info page, you'll see that all tailsitters are considered types of quad planes in Ardupilot, so you should start off by reading the quad plane documentation first. And I found this thread here to be also very useful. In fact, you could probably get away with just reading this thread, to be honest. Wouldn't recommend it, but you probably could, because this is covering pretty much all of the settings that I needed to make in here. So I'll just briefly show you what settings I had to change. I had to make a bit of a wacky setting for the orientation due to the way I'd mounted my flight controller board on the frame. It was a bit unusual. Then this Q enable will enable the quad plane stuff. So these other Q properties here, you won't see those until you set Q enable to 1 and then reboot. And then you'll see all these other Q somethings like this. So frame class 10 is a tail sitter, and then I had to say that whatever servo outputs I wanted to use for my motors were going to be left motor and right motor. So this is how it knows to change the speed of those motors to give you a roll in that axis. And then, as you'll see further down in this thread, you're probably going to need to use the Kalman filter 3 rather than 2. I had a lot of problems before I tried this. One main problem was that when I armed, immediately the artificial horizon would flip over to 45 degrees for some reason, and then when I disarmed it would flip back to level. So it was just never gonna work like that. But as soon as I made this change, everything was fine in that regard. And one other thing I did, as you'll see a bit later in the video, is I changed the limit on how far it can roll and pitch away from level to 40 degrees from the default of 30 degrees. Now I did quite a bit of twiddling around with the rates and the PIDs and everything, and you'll find all those under this. Oh, they all start with this prefix here, so if you just type that into the full parameters list, you'll see a big list of those. I'll just show you a screenshot of the values that I ended up with, although it's probably not going to be relevant for many people. The developers of Ardupilot might be a little bit interested to see what I ended up with, perhaps.
I will just point out one other problem I had, because I got really stuck on this. It actually took me a couple of days before I figured out how to progress past it. So it's on, and it's in fly-by-wire A mode, and it's disarmed at the moment. See? But when it's disarmed, you still get to do this in fly-by-wire A mode. This is roll, pitch, and everything. So that would be like the nose of the plane, left wing, right wing, and up, like that. And also, you'll see that when I pick this up, even though it's disarmed, the servos are responding appropriately as they should for fly-by-wire A mode. Now if I tip it up like this and switch into Q stabilize mode, which is the equivalent, it's like angle mode for a multicopter, so it's sort of the same as fly-by-wire A for a plane almost. And you'll see that the elevons are now moving. Oh, you might not be able to see this very well, but they're actually moving the opposite way to what they should do in order to keep the thing stable. And I just couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I couldn't figure out any settings that I missed or anything. But it turns out all you have to do is arm it. So now, I just switched into stabilize mode and then hover again. Now, look at this. It's a little bit odd because it's trying to hold that position there. But basically, if you get stuck like that, make sure you're doing everything when it's armed.
So your eye is a bit high, maybe? That's better. Oops, okay. Alright, I stopped on purpose there because the string went into the hole, as you can see. Maybe it's gone in there. Okay, to stop the string going down in there, I just put, it's just going over there and over to here, so I just put a little bit of weight on the string so that when this lifts up, that will go down and the string will stay going up. Okay, so it's a bit wobbly in pitch now. Not bad. Okay, so the P needed to be fairly high. I guess it, being an inverted pendulum kind of situation, as soon as it starts to get off balance, it needs to be very quick about getting the butt of the thing under the center of gravity again. So I'll bump the P up just a little bit more. Cool, well that's pretty good. That's probably good enough that I'd be happy to try flying it off the string, like, you know, outside, not now obviously, but tomorrow. Now what I think I might give it a quick try is Q hover, which is altitude hold, basically. Okay, so that didn't work very well. It just seemed like it wanted to shoot up into the sky. Okay, I put a fresh battery on, and I want to be mostly flying for this battery, not doing much tuning, and I want to see how long this battery will last. But since it's fresh at the moment, I wanted to try taking off and landing from the ground, and I tried this a little bit inside, and it's quite tricky, but I think the key is to give it a big punch just to get off the ground so that the elevons can actually take some effect. Otherwise it just sort of tips over if you try and take off slowly. So I'll do that, and I just might point out something that I noticed. If you leave it in Q stabilize mode for a while, the elevons tip over to one direction, and then you put it into Q hover, they center again, put it back into Q stabilize, and you can see them slowly moving. Not really sure why that is. Maybe it's a little bit off. Oh. It's a little bit strange. So what I've been doing is going to Q stabilize to center them, and then Q hover to take off, just in case it goes funny by them being all the way over one side when I try and launch. Anyway, let's do it. Hey, that wasn't too bad at all. Cool. Well, it doesn't like being... Well, do you see that? The motor span when I switch from Q stabilized to Q hover. That's a bit scary. Yeah, it doesn't like being moved around much. Like you can hover it nice and still. That's fine. And what I thought I might do then is do a full yaw turn, which is probably not a good idea because then I'll be nose in and a little bit confused maybe. But as soon as I started to do the yaw turn, the pitch started to wobble like that. So yeah, perhaps it's not so good maneuverability. Maybe needs a bit more tuning for that. But just in a static hover, it seems to be pretty reasonable. Look at the throttle. It's about 80% throttle, I think. Oh, jeez. So loud I couldn't hear this going off right in front of me. Jeez. No, nowhere near as quiet as I thought it might be. Whoa, come here. Oh. Okay, I didn't really want to stop there, but I was having to hold it at almost full throttle just to hover. So I think that's probably the last time I'm going to use a 3S battery on this. It's definitely 4S battery is what we need. Okay, we have a nice day today, so I'm going to try 4S, and I'm also going to try giving it a little bit more of a chance to do a Q hover, that is an altitude hold, and I put a little bit of cotton wool over the barometer, so hopefully we'll see a little bit better altitude performance. There's a little bit of wind today, which I'm not too happy about, but I mean, given the way things have been lately, I don't think we can be too fussy. Wow. What was that all about? Is that just the wind pushing it over already? Maybe. Hey! Whoa, 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 whoa. That's weird. It was giving me throttle when I put it into Q hover mode. I might see if I can face it this way so that the wind is less of an effect on it. Hey, what? Why is it tipping over that way now? It's like it wants to pitch that way. Oh, I see, because it's not level. Ah, shit. Does it have to be really level or something to take off? Hopefully that's better. Okay, I can't actually get it to come back. I'm trying to bring it back, but I can't. Okay, Okay, so what happened there was I think there's a limit on how much it can pitch, and even though the wind wasn't very strong, you can see the trees there, it's just sort of a light breeze. The amount of pitch I was able to give it was not enough to make headway into that wind to come back until the wind died down a little bit. So I guess I could tip it that way and roll into the wind if I got stuck like that. It's one way to do it perhaps, because I'm a little bit lazy to go inside and change the settings. I don't have the wireless thing on there to do that, so I'm just going to fly a little bit more and hope we don't have any problems. But it seems like it needs to be really quite level to take off properly. Alright, so let's give it a little try at altitude hold or Q hover. No, the wind is really messing with it. So I can't actually, I'm holding mostly back on the pitch stick here and a little bit right. And when that wind picks up like that, it's just all I can do to get it to stay in one place. So I'm not so sure about trying altitude hold here, but I will give it a quick shot. Ready, and go. No, doesn't want to do altitude hold at all. It just flies straight up as much as it can. That's a pity. Now come back, please. I'm just relying, I'm fully back on the pitch stick here, look. And it's not really going anywhere. See if I can bring it back without hitting that tree. Man, it's just not going anywhere at all. Now it is. That's weird. So I guess all I can assume is that that's the wind, because when it was up there quite high, I was fully back like that and it wasn't going anywhere, and then all of a sudden it started to come back and I was able to come back at about half pitch back. So yeah, must be just the wind. Wow, I didn't think that it would feel the wind this much, given that it doesn't have any wings or any, real, not that much surface area on it really. And that middle section is just a hole, so it's only really those two pipes that are able to catch the wind. Anyway, let's see how much flight time we can get out of this battery. This is a 4S 1300. Got to put it really level, don't we? Level as we can. I'm just trying to fly around a little bit now, but I can't. See, I'm full back on the pitch stick again. Yeah, it's just purely the wind, because I can actually tell the difference in the wind when I come behind this. The wind's coming from that way, so right here is good, Then as soon as I go out behind the wall there, it's just blows over that way, even though there's just the faintest of breezes if you look at the tree there. Yeah, not very practical at all, is it, this thing? Still, kind of interesting. Nice to see that it works, that it flies at least, and is moderately controllable with a minimum of time spent tuning. I saw one of the red lights going there, so I don't think we have too much time left. Wow, really sucks the batteries quickly, doesn't it? I put a fresh battery on and I thought I might give the Q hover mode one more try, because I was reviewing the video just now and I realized that I made a bit of a noob mistake, and that is that when I'm in Q stabilize, my throttle is to about 75 to 80% to get it to just hover, and then when you switch into Q hover mode, that throttle being above halfway means go up. So it went up, right? Obviously, as it's supposed to do. So what I'm going to have to do now is when I switch into Q hover, I'm going to have to carefully put the throttle to about there to get it to hold altitude. And we'll see how that goes. Alright, so... Hey, hands off. Oh. Okay. Alright, Q hover. I'm bringing the throttle down a bit. It's not going up so much. That's good. It's descending. Up. Holding altitude. That's good. Come back this way. Now it's ascending. Alright, so it's having a hard time. Or maybe I'm just having a hard time getting it in the right position to hold altitude, because I don't want it to hit the ground, so I'm erring on the side of making the throttle a little bit too high. Hopefully you can see my finger in the view there, what I'm doing with the throttle. Just trying to bring it back at the moment. Doesn't want to come back. Alright, so the answer is, when you at least use the throttle properly, it does a little bit of a better job at holding altitude, but it's nowhere near as good at holding as just a normal quadcopter is. Now, while I still have a fresh battery on, I'm kind of tempted to try a rather stupid idea, which is to switch into fly-by-wire A. See the prop spin there? That's not quite right, is it? Look at that. Why do they spin? That's a bit of a problem, I think. Anyway, so I was just switching to fly-by-wire A there. Q stabilize, Q hover, fly-by-wire A, prop spin a little bit. Anyway, yeah, so this is probably going to, well, maybe not, but it could end in disaster. So I'm just going to quickly flip into fly-by-wire A. I just want to see it sort of tip itself flat like a plane, and then I'll probably just switch back into Q hover, Q stabilize to hopefully bring it back without ruining it. Get it up nice and high, of course. Alright. For some reason the throttle went to almost nothing, even though I had it at full throttle. I'm just having a look at this here at the desk. In fly-by-wire A, so this is just normal plain elevons here, it's giving me full throttle when I give full throttle stick now. Well, but for some reason, in flight, when I switched into fly-by-wire A mode in the air, the props were just spinning like about that, like at the lowest point. So I think something a little bit wrong with that. I bet if I could have given it the full throttle, it might have actually been able to do a brick-like glide. At least it would have been moving forwards a little bit under control. That's what I was thinking it might happen, even without any wings. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because it seems a little bit odd. Give it another try, eh? Let's bring it back this way because the wind's going to carry it. Alright, fly-by-wire A? No. The throttle just drops to almost nothing. Why is that? Well, at least with 4S it has enough power to catch itself quite successfully. And when the wind has died down a bit like it is now, I'm feeling a fair bit more comfortable flying it in Q stabilized mode. Oh, and I also changed the damn it, it's really hard to land without tipping over. Sorry, I was just yelling at myself there, but I changed the pitch limit from 30 degrees to 40 degrees, so it's a lot easier to bring it back through the wind now when I want to. Oops, that's not quite what I was trying to do. I was just trying to land it once properly to finish the video, but it's damn near impossible. And the battery is running out already. I think the alarm was beeping, but it can't hear it over this bloody racket that these props are making. Anyway, so yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to fly this a whole lot more. And my idea about sticking it underneath the, it's worth a try, isn't it? Sticking it underneath a glider, like the Skywalker Falcon or something, just something with, it's going to have to be something with a fairly big wingspan if it's ever going to work. But it's going to be a bit tricky to manage because I'm going to need two of these to get it to work, and it just seems like a bit of a hassle, but who knows, we may yet see that happen. Anyway, thanks for watching.